Good morning, everyone. I hope that each and every one of you are doing so awesome out there. I'm Pastor Andy with you as always for this week's Bible story. How you doing? You doing good? How's school? That's great. I hope you're learning lots of cool things at school and that you are getting to see your friends and enjoy it. You know, I was thinking the other day, one thing about school is that there's a lot of rules, right? Are there a lot of rules at your school? What's a rule that you can think of? Can you think of one of the rules? Maybe don't run in the hall. Keep your hands to yourself. What else? What else can we think of? Do your homework. I'm looking at you out there. Yeah, you better do your homework. What else? Maybe there's rules like be nice to one another, right? Don't say things that may hurt another person's feelings. That's a really good rule. You know, there's lots of rules in life, and God gives us rules to live by. Now, why do you think that God would give us rules to live by? Can you think about that for a second? Do you think that God gives us rules to be mean? I don't either. I don't think that God gives us rules because God wants to be mean to us and tell us not to have fun. I actually think that God gives us rules because God wants us to have fun. Well, let's think about it for a second. If everyone's being mean, is that very fun? No, it isn't. If everyone is not sharing their toys, is that very fun? No, it's not fun. If everyone's bullying, is that fun? No, it's not fun. So if you think about it, all of these rules exist so that we can have fun and have a good life. Well, today, we're going to learn a little bit about when God gave his people, the Israelites, some rules to live by so that they could have fun and have a good life. And can you remember for me which character from the Bible received from God 2 big stone tablets with a list on them? Can you remember? No, it's not David. It's not Jesus. It's not Abraham either. But it is Moses. So whoever said Moses out there, you are right. Good job. You get a gold star. Well, you may remember from if you've seen like the Prince of Egypt or something like that, or in some of your storybooks, that God gave to Moses the 10 Commandments on a big tall mountain called Sinai. Can you say that with me? It's kind of a weird word. Sinai. And Moses was leading God's people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Remember, he helped to free them. And as they're wandering in the wilderness, they're kind of like, well, we don't really know what to do. And we're going to complain a lot and be a bunch of yahoos, which they were. And so God wanted to give them some rules to live by so that they would be able to be good to each other, so that they could keep on keeping on. You know what? You've ever heard that saying? Today we're going to learn about the 10 Commandments, and especially the first commandment and the second commandment, which are, I am the Lord your God, and you shall love me with all of your heart, all of your mind, and all of your strength. That's the first commandment, okay? And the second one goes with it. It's very similar. And you shall have no other gods before me. So it's very simple, remember, because they're both about God, okay? So say them with me. Number 1, you should love God, okay? Very simple. Number 2, you should have no other gods before God, okay? What does that mean? That means you don't create for yourself another God that does things that you want them to. Because God is our parent, and we don't always get to tell God what to do, right? And so when it says to create gods, that means we're not going to create like an imaginary God that's going to do whatever we want. That's what that means. Let's go to today's story, shall we? And it is titled A Message from God. Moses was talking to the Israelites, God's people, before they moved into their new country. So remember, they're wandering around, and they're going to go into their new country. And Moses said to them, "Come here. I have a message from God." Now everyone listened to Moses, because he was the leader. So everyone turned to listen to him. And Moses said to them, "This is what God says to you. There is only one God. And we are a part of God's family. So love God with everything you say, you think, and you do." That sounds kind of familiar. Does that kind of sound like rule number 1 that we talked about earlier? I think it does. So the people nodded and say, "Yeah, I like this rule. It's a good rule there, Moses." And they were thankful for the new country God was giving to them. But how would they remember God in this new home? What if they forgot about God? So Moses said, "Teach your children." Here's another commandment. Teach your children about God. Talk about God at home, when you go places, at bedtime, and in the morning. And remember, we belong to God. Moses was right. The people told their children stories about God while they kept traveling. They were moving to a new country, and they were God's family. So here, show you some pictures. So I always mess this up a little bit. So over here on this side, you can see the guy with the beard. That's Moses. And then you see the people listening to him. And then over here you see a boy and a girl, right? The kiddos like you. And they're listening to somebody. Maybe that's Moses. It could be someone else. And he's telling them stories. And I bet you he's telling them stories about God, kind of like we do in church, or kind of like I do right here. And we do this because God wants you, his kids, to remember that you are loved by God and that you are a part of this big old family that God has. And the people that are in that family, well, of course, people you go to church with, your own families, and then lots of Christians all over the world. Also, the people of the Israelites, which we, if you've ever known a little boy or girl at school who is Jewish, they are a part of God's family as well. If you don't know what that is, maybe ask your mom or dad. What is a Jewish person? And they may be able to help you with that. But they're a part of God's family too. And so it's important to remember that when we hear these stories from the Bible, that we are a part of that story, right? Isn't that really cool? So when you hear stories about David, King David, or Moses, or Abraham, or Sarah, or Esther, or Jesus, or Peter, or Paul, or any of these wonderful characters, it's important to remember that even though they're written about in the Bible, which makes them really important, that you also are important to the story. That God has a story that God is writing with you. And that is a really cool thing. And that is the third rule. Okay? The third rule is to remember that you are a part of God's story and to teach your kids one day their part in that story too. So, see, we just did the first 3 commandments. Isn't that amazing? So help me remember what the first one was. What was number 1? You should love jelly beans? Fish sticks? No, you should love God with all of your heart, your mind, and your strength. Number 2, which goes with it, okay? Number 2 goes with it. What does it say? You shall have no other gods before God, right? Cool. And then number 3, okay, we're going to see if you were paying attention. What was the third one? You should teach your children about God and remember that you're a part of God's family. That's right. Very good. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed today's lesson. Talk with your moms and dads and brothers and sisters about what it means to be a part of God's family. What does that mean for you and for us? And why we should learn about God. And maybe ask your mom and dad what are some stories they want to tell you about God. And I bet you they'll have some cool answers. I hope that you're doing well. I pray for you. I miss you. And we will be together again soon. Actually, so I'll be able to see you face to face again, which I'm really excited about. I hope you're excited too. Until then, may you be blessed. May you continue to learn about all kinds of things, and may you continue to grow closer with the God who loves you. Until then, I'll see you. Bye-bye.